Hi, this is Mike Peterson from Challenge Island, Oakland County East, back with our Steamtastic Friday. Today we're going to start a new series at Challenge Island. We're going to talk a little bit about cooking, because everybody cooks and everybody likes to eat. So I thought this might be a common topic we can all relate to. So today we'll hit the S in STEAM, which stands for science. So we'll talk just a little bit about the science of cooking. So first, thought it might be useful to think about, okay, well, why do we cook in the first place? There's actually a lot of really good reasons for it. So in fact, if you look back and if you look at the research biologists and anthropologists have done over the years, they find that part of the reason the humans have gotten to be so smart and why our brains work so well actually has to do with cooking, because cooking has so many benefits to it. It allowed our bodies to digest the food a lot easier, and so therefore we're able to, our bodies can spend energy making our brains work and make us smarter, as opposed to just spending so much work on digesting the food. So to go into a little more detail about that, a lot of good things about why we cook food. So first, it breaks down the walls in the cells. So when you have plants, for example, like asparagus is classic for this. Asparagus has a lot of great vitamins in it, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, but it's kind of hard for your body to get through those hard cell walls of the asparagus to digest that. When we cook it, kind of breaks those down, makes it a lot easier for our body to get those great nutrients out of there. Second one is that it releases antioxidants, which are other great vitamins and minerals that help us out. So for example, you can see the really long one here, ergonothine, actually comes from mushrooms, but we need to cook them to get those antioxidants out so that our bodies can enjoy those. And then the third one, it also just makes nutrients in general easier to absorb. So as you can see down here, spinach has a ton of great stuff in it, iron, magnesium, calcium even, and zinc. When we cook it, it's a lot easier for our body to take advantage of those. Just to give you a few more, so if you're not sold on cooking yet, let's try these. It also makes a lot of foods more digestible. Potatoes are a great example of that. So if you've ever tried eating a raw potato, you probably know that's pretty hard to do. When we cook it, it makes it way easier for our body to eat those starches and digest it, plus it tastes a lot better too. Also too, it actually eliminates toxins in some cases. So our example here, kidney beans have a protein in them called lectin. A little bit of that's great for us. Too much of it can be a bad thing. So if we cook the kidney beans, we make sure we break that down, and then it ends up being good for us. So we don't have to worry about getting too much of that. Finally, it can kill bacteria. So for sure, when it comes to cooking like meat, poultry, fish, things like that, for example, chicken has salmonella bacteria in it sometimes, but when we cook it, that kills that, so we don't have to worry about it. So a lot of great reasons to cook food, so it's a good thing to do. So also too, there's a lot of different kinds of cooking. So as you work with cooking, so if you're working with mom and dad in the kitchen and want to try doing some cooking, these are just a few of the ways you can cook stuff. So in general, when we cook, that means to make things hot. So we're cooking things, making them warmer in some way. So in general, we do that with what we call dry heat. So we just put our food somewhere hot, let it warm up. So examples of that are broiling, grilling on the grill out back, roasting, baking, even sauteing counts at that, because we do it on an open grill when we do that. Another kind is moist heat, where we boil water or use some kind of liquid and use that to heat up the food. So poaching, simmering, boiling, steaming are all examples of that. And sometimes we put the two together. So a good example of this, like if we have a kind of meat that's kind of hard, sometimes we'll stew it. So we'll cook it in something wet, but we might cook it dry first to kind of get it moistened up a little bit, so we can put them together. So every one of those types of cooking has a lot of science and chemical reactions going on in there. So let's just take one of them just for fun quick. Let's take a look at baking. So when you bake a loaf of bread, here are just a few of the chemical reactions that go on to turn all that water and eggs and yeast into a really nice tasting loaf of bread. So one of the first things that happens, so all the proteins inside the wheat start bonding. So for example, you can see here glutenin and gliadin mixed together to make gluten. That's one reaction that happens. So that's really common in bread. So that gives it kind of the structure and the shape, like when you look inside the bread and see how it's all formed, that's where that comes from. Another reaction is leavening. So that's a fancy word for basically getting air into the bread, so it's not so heavy and hard to carry around. So for example, if you take yeast, add the starches from the grains into there, that gives off carbon dioxide, so it gives off air, and that goes into the bread and then helps it to be nice and light, so it tastes really good and doesn't weigh too much. All right, then we've got some more complicated reactions that go on too. There's what we call Maillard reactions. So the proteins and the sugars in the bread break down. So that's what gives bread its nice looking dark surface to it when it starts cooking. Also makes it smell good. And finally, we have what's called caramelization. That's kind of the last chemical reaction that happens with bread. That happens actually at a very specific temperature, about 356 degrees. So as long as we're cooking our bread higher than that, which we usually do, all sorts of things happen here. So you can see as the sugars in the bread break down, all kinds of things go on, and that helps to affect the flavor of the bread, helps to affect the color of the bread, and just makes it look really good and taste really good. All right, so next time you get a chance to see some cooking going on in your house, or better yet, if you can help mom and dad with some cooking, give that a try. Take a look and see if you can figure out what kind of reactions are going on, or Google on that kind of bacon you're doing, and check out all the cool chemistry and science that goes on as you do that. All right, with that, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.